Exam 6 review. All right, let's get into it. Here we have our first question, and we want to know what is the area of the following rectangle in square inches. Okay, so notice how the question is asking us for our answer in inches. However, we are given feet, right? So always double check this on any question on your exam because there's going to be a few that are like this where you have to convert your units. So there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So to convert that, all we need to do is multiply 3 by 12 and 5 by 12. So 3 times 12 is going to give me 36. 5 times 12 will give me 60. And then to find the area of a rectangle, all we need to do is multiply length times width. So we would do 36 times 60. And don't forget that you can use a calculator at any point on this exam. So I would definitely recommend it just to even double check your simple math calculations to make sure you're not making any silly mistakes. So area for this rectangle would be 2,160 inches squared. And again, you gotta do that conversion first, then multiply. Next question, we want to know what is the area of the following triangle in inches squared. So again, we're looking for inches. And if I look here, I have inches on this side. However, on the bottom, I am missing inches. I am given feet, which means that I need to do 3 times 12, which gives me 36, to find that side length in inches. Now remember, area formula of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Okay, 1/2 base times height. So I would have 1/2 times 5 times 36, which would give me my area. And then I'm just going to pull back that calculator so we can double check it. And when I multiply it all out, I get 90. So area of this triangle is going to be 90 inches squared. Here we have a figure and we want to know which expression can be used to find the area of it. Okay, so this is a composite figure, meaning that we have a triangle and we have a rectangle in one image. So we need to cut it right here because if I cut it along this line, I then have my rectangle on top and my triangle on bottom. So to figure out what I'm multiplying together for my rectangle, that is this what I'm outlining in red here, I need to count. So this is 1, 2, 3 units along and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units wide. So to figure out this area, I would do 3 times 7 or 7 times 3. And then for my triangle, this bottom is still 7, and I need to count my height, which is from the highest point of my triangle down to my base, and that would give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So don't forget that your area formula for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So this would be 1/2 6 times 7. So we are looking at this answer here. So 7 times 3, this is my rectangle, and 1/2 7 times 6, which is my triangle. Alright, so Madison is calculating the area of a composite figure, and the figure is made up of a rectangle and a triangle. So she finds the area of the rectangle by multiplying 7 times 2 to get 14. So that's good. And then she finds the area of the triangle by multiplying 6 times 3 and then multiplying by 2 to get 36. And then she adds them together. So what mistake did she make? Well, think about the formula for your triangle. Right? When you have your area formula, it's 1/2 base times height. So she did her base times height, which is 6 and 3, but instead of multiplying by 2, she needs to divide by 2 because of this 1/2 here. So no, she made a mistake when calculating the area of her triangle. Okay, so she made a mistake when she was calculating the area of her triangle. Alright, Kayla is going to tile a 5 foot by 7 foot rectangular section of her bathroom wall, and each square tile measures 2 inches tall by 2 inches wide. How many tiles will she need to finish her project? Okay, so here's her big wall. This is her 5 feet by 7 feet wall, And each of these tiles is 2 inches by 2 inches. So she's going to fit this entire wall with tiles. So before we can figure out how many tiles she needs, we need to make sure that we're working with the same units. Now 2 inches is very small, so I don't want to convert that to feet because then I'm going to have fractions. So let's multiply 7 by 12 and 5 by 12. Okay, and when we do that, don't forget that if you want to type these into a calculator, you can also do that, right? So say I think I know what 7 times 12 is, but I just want to double check it. I get 84. Okay, so then this is 84 inches. So now what we want to do is figure out the area of the big wall. So 84 times 60, and let's bring back that calculator, which is 5,040. And then we need to figure out, well, how big is the area of these two tiles? So 2 times 2, which gives me 4. So now what we'd want to do, now that we know both of our areas here, is we want to take our areas and divide them. Okay, so we're going to take the area of the wall, which is 5,040, and we're going to divide it by the area of each tile, which is 2. And let me bring back my calculator. So 5,040, we're going to divide that by 4, and we get 1,260. So she will need 1,260 tiles to complete her project. Alright, so Philip here is mowing his backyard, and his backyard is oddly shaped. He has an 8-foot by 8-foot pond, which is this blue thing here, and the green area is his grass, so that's the part that he's mowing. We want to know what is the total area that Philip will be mowing here. Okay, so I'm going to cut this, actually let me choose a different color so it's not the same as that blue real quick. I'm going to cut this along this side here, because then when I do that, yes, I'm cutting through the area of the pond, but that's okay, because I want to know, well, what's the area total of his backyard, and then I can subtract that pond area from it. Okay, so I'm cutting it straight through the middle because I want to know, well, what's the area of this bottom square here, and what is the area of this big rectangle up here. Okay, so thankfully we're working in feet all around, so that's good. If I look at this bottom square here, I would have 10 times 10. That gives me 100. And then when I look at this top rectangle here, I would have 30 times 12. And 30 times 12 is going to give me 360. And then let's add these two together. So 100 plus 360 will give me 460. So that is the area of all of the grass section of that entire backyard. Now what we need to do is subtract the area of his pond. So his pond is going to be an 8 by 8 square, which is going to give me 64. So if I take that 460, which is the total area of his backyard, and subtract it from 64, that is going to tell me the area of how much of his backyard he is going to be mowing. And when I subtract them, I get 396. So he will be mowing 396 feet or square feet of his backyard. Oops. So each edge of a cube is 9 inches. What is the surface area of the cube? Okay, so remember, for surface area, you're adding up all of the surfaces. And if you think about a cube or like a dice, there are 6 sides. And with a cube, right, with a cube, if one side is 9, the other side is 9. So if I find the area of one of my sides, so 9 times 9, then I take that surface area and multiply it by 6, because that is how many edges or how many surfaces there are. That will give me my surface area. So if I do 81 times 6, I get 486, which is my surface area here. Alright, we want to know what is the area, or sorry, the surface area of the following box. Okay, so remember that with a box, two of your faces are going to be the same, right? Otherwise it's not a box, it's like a weird cattywampus cube box looking thing, right? So if this front side here is going to have the same area as this back side here, so all we need to do is multiply both of the each pair of numbers and then multiply it by 2. Okay, so starting at the bottom, I'm going to go up this way. So I'm going to have 2 times 8 times 10. And then my next pair is 8 times 12. And then I'm going to loop back around and have 12 times 10. So this is kind of a shortcut. Anytime you're asked to find the surface area of a cube or a box, this works. Okay, only for cubes and boxes though. And then we need to multiply all these together. So 160, 192, 240. Then, to find surface area, we need to add them all together. So, bring back our calculator. 160 plus 192 plus 240 gives me 592. So surface area of this box is going to be 592. Alright, next, so here we have this big box, and then there's this tiny box that's attached to the front of it, and we want to know what is the surface area of this composite figure. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to find the surface area of the big green box. Okay, again, it's a box, so I can use that trick. So 2 times 32 times 25, 2 times 25 times 17, 2 times 17 times 32, and add these all together. Then let's look at this smaller yellow box here. Now with the smaller yellow box, I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I'm not going to do the same thing, and this is why. When you have a composite figure with surface area, the part where the two surfaces meet, you do not add together, because technically that's not a surface, right? We don't see that from the outside. So this 10 and 2, which is this top part, right? There are 4 sides of those, right? I'm going to have a 10 by 2 up here, a 10 by 2 on this side, on the bottom, and along the outer edge. So I'm going to have 4 times 10 times 2, and then I have this one out here, this 9 times 10. So now I'm going to type all of this into a calculator and let the calculator help me out here. Oops, make sure we're multiplying, not subtracting. Alright, so a lot of multiplying we just did. Now to find surface area, we got to make sure that we add them all together. But before I do that, I'm just double checking to make sure that I typed in all the right numbers. Alright, so we are very close. Now what we need to do is we need to subtract one more thing from this. And the thing that we are subtracting is this back edge here that's attached to this box. Because if you think about it, this would be a 17 by 32 of this front facing box right here. And we need to subtract the surface area that covers this right here that we didn't do. Okay, so we didn't take that into account. So we need to subtract one of those 32 times 17s. So I'm going to hit enter and do this right here. So what was it, 32 times 17, right? No, actually it's 32 times 25. Right, because this 25 would move up here and this 32 would move up here. So now I then need to subtract that 800. 4 times 2 times 10, 9 times 10. Okay. And we have 2 times 17, 32, so it is the 17. So this edge here would be 17, and then we have the 32. So that was my fault. I was looking at it in a weird way. So once we add up all of our areas, we need to subtract this 32 times 17, which is this small area of this box. And when we do that, we get 3,164. Okay, so for this answer here, 3,614 would be our answer. Whoops. Yay. Alright, next one. Okay, so here we have this figure, and it says that one side of a 9 centimeter cube is stacked on one side by a 12 by 16 by 10 rectangular prism, and we have the figure shown below. So Grady calculates the surface area by finding the surface area of the cube, which is 486 square centimeters. Then he finds the surface area of the rectangular prism and then adds them together. Okay, so remember that when you are finding your surface areas, this is a good way to start, but you have to also remember to subtract the area where those surfaces meet. So no, he did not find the surface area correctly, because he should have subtracted 2 times the area of one side of the cube. So he forgot to subtract that area. Alright, next question. So next question, we have cube A and cube B here. And it says that the edge lengths the edge lengths of cubes B are 3 times as long as the edge lengths of cube A. What is the surface area of cube B? So for this question here, I'm going to tell you right now that the answer is 162, and if you feel like moving on, you may do that. This question is completely unfair for this grade level. This is without a doubt a high school level question, but I'll go through how to solve it for those of you in case you are curious, but know that you shouldn't know how to solve this unless you are like a mastermind. Okay, so if whatever I'm doing is confusing you, then just pick 162 and move on. Okay, so what we need to do is take 18 and divide it by 6 to get 3. Okay, so that gives us the area of each of the cube faces. From 3, we need to figure out, well, what two numbers can I multiply together to get 3? And since we can't think of any two right off the bat, we'd have to take the square root. So we'd have the square root of 3. Okay. So, since each of the edge lengths of cube B are 3 times as long, each of these edge lengths on cube B, that would mean they would be 3 root 3. Okay, so I would take 3 root 3 and times it by 3 root 3 to find the area of one of my faces. And that gives me 27, and then I would take that 27 and multiply it by 6, because there are 6 faces, to get 162. So without a doubt, you probably do not know how to solve this, and that's okay, because this was never taught. This is like a very high level applied math question, so please don't feel bad if you don't know how to do this. Alrighty, next question. So in the next question, it says that Chris made a solid by joining these two identical rectangular prisms, and we have this here. We want to know what is the surface area in square inches of a single prism. Okay, well, think about it. If this big segment up here is 18 inches, if I were to cut it in half, that would mean this would be 9 centimeters. Sorry, not inches, this is centimeters. Right? And then when I do that, I now know all the edges of this one box just by cutting that top length in half. So I can use my trick of 2 times 9 times 15 2 times 15 times 18, and 2 times 18 times 9. Multiplying all those together and then adding them up. So I'd have 270 plus 810 plus 342, which would give me 1,422. Alright, so next we have a box that is 2 feet wide, 5 feet tall, and 8 feet long. We want to know what's the volume of her box in cubic inches, right? So here we have cubic inches, which means that we need to convert all of these into inches. So 8 times 12 will give me 96, 5 times 12 will give me 60, 2 times 12 will give me 24. Then volume formula of a box is length times width times height. So I would have 24 times 60 times 96. So remember that whenever you have a volume formula, you are always multiplying 3 numbers from your figure together. So that's only with volume are you multiplying 3 numbers from your figure together. And when I say that, I mean you're plugging them into your equation. Okay, so sometimes, like with the volume of a triangular prism, you have that 1/2 in front, but you still have 3 numbers that you're plugging in. So this is a pretty big number. We get 138,240. So it would be the volume of Rachel's box in cubic inches. Alright, so we want to know what is the volume of this rectangular prism in cubic inches. Again, we have 1 in inches, but these two are in feet, so we need to multiply them by 12. And then volume formula is just plugging them all together and multiplying them. So 36 times 24 times 48. When I do that, I get 41,000. I think it was 728. Not 100% sure. This question on your exam is multiple choice. Okay, so we have all these boxes, and we are given dimensions of one of the boxes, and we want to know what is the volume of all 6 of these. Okay, so there are 6. We can see 4 up here, and then there's 2 in the back. We could see 1 here, and there's also 1 back here. So we need to find the volume of 1. So 5 times 6 times 10. And then once we find that volume, we are going to multiply it by 6, okay, because there are 6 of these shapes. So I would have 5 times 6 times 10. And then I would take that 300 and I would multiply it by 6 to give me 1,800. Alright, so again we have this box, and again Grady is trying to find the surface area. And so he finds the surface area of the cube, and then finds the, sorry, now we're doing volume, not surface area, I apologize. So he finds the volume of a cube, which is 729, okay? And then he finds the volume of the rectangular prism, which is 944. Well, I'm looking at those two numbers, and I'm thinking that they're very close together, considering that this box up here has such bigger numbers. Let's double check the area of both to see if maybe he made a mistake when multiplying. So let's do the cube, which is 9 times 9 times 9. So that's 729, that's good. And then let's check this back box. So 10 times 12 times 16. Ooh, so for that back box, he should definitely have a bigger number, which means no, he did not find the area correctly. And it looks like he found the surface area of the rectangular prism instead of the volume. So no, he found the surface area of the rectangular prism. Okay, so make sure you're looking carefully. You want the rectangular prism instead of the volume. Alright, Sarah has two cubes, cube A and cube B. The perimeter of one of the faces of cube A is 20 inches, and the sides of cube B are twice as long as cube A. What is the volume of cube B? Okay, so here we have cube A. Now the perimeter is all four sides added together, so to find the length of one side, we would need to do 20 divided by 4, and that gives us 5. So it looks like each one of these sides on her first cube is going to be 5 inches. And for cube B, since it is 2 times as big, if one side here is 10, that means, or sorry, 5, that means this will be 10, right? 5 times 2 will give me 10. And so then I want to find out what the volume is. So I'm going to do 10 times 10 times 10, and that will give me 1,000. So volume of the second cube, cube B, is going to be 1,000 inches cubed. Alright, the roof of a tiny home is a triangular prism, and the triangular base of the prism has a height of 7 feet and a base of 8. The height of the prism is 10 feet. What is the volume of the roof in cubic feet? Okay, so let's draw what this looks like. Connect all my sides. So this is our house. Okay, so height of 7, 8, and then 10. Volume formula for a triangular prism is 1/2 base times height. So 1/2, 7 times 8 times 10. Sorry, it looks like a 16. And let us type that into a calculator. I get 280. So what I did for this problem is I just took that base and height, like these three numbers here, and really I just plugged them into this. So I multiplied all of them together, but don't forget the 1/2 as well. Alright, so a plane cuts a triangular prism, and the plane passes through the two lateral faces of the figure shown. What is the shape of the cross section formed by the cut? Well, whenever you're looking at these, you want to pay attention to this dark blue part in the center. So if I were to take that, it would look like this, or a triangle. So a triangle would be the cross section formed by this. A figure, whoops, looks like we were almost done. We had 2 more. There we go. So a figure is a rectangular prism, and if the height and width are equal and the length is double the width, select all the figures that can be formed a slice directly down the middle. Okay, so with this question, you kind of have to think about which different way you can cut it, right? I could cut it straight down the middle this way, or I could cut it straight down the middle, like from the top, like across here this way. So if I were to cut it straight down the middle, I would see this edge here, which is a square, and if I were to cut it along this top edge up here, I would see a rectangle. So I could see a square or a rectangle by cutting this figure. And then last question. So the figure below is a rectangular pyramid. We want to know which of the following statements describes a two-dimensional figure that results from slicing it. Okay, so think about if I were to slice it vertically, like kind of across, like going diagonal, like this, right? I would have a trapezoid. So a trapezoid is formed when you slice it perpendicular to its base. And then when you slice it parallel to its base, meaning this way, like if I were to cut the top off to not make it a pyramid anymore, but kind of slice it to take the top off, I would see a triangle, or sorry, a rectangle, because that is the base I have here. So a rectangle is formed when the pyramid is sliced by a plane parallel to its base. Okay, so parallel to its base is important because perpendicular is going up and down. That's like you slicing it from the top of your pyramid down to the bottom, which isn't the same. All right. And that is all that I have for this exam. If you have other questions or would like a retake, please let me know. Other than that, have a wonderful rest of your day.